welcome to From the Heart. I'm your host, Bernita Jackson, and we're back. I am going to continue a conversation that we started with for my new colleagues and friends. We have Dee Dee Artist. She is the Director of Family and Children's Services. We have Millicent Houston. She is the Permanency Administrator for Douglas County DFACS. We have Judge Natalia Nurse. She is the Associate Judge here in Douglas County. And we have Katie Hilbert. She is the CASA administrator. So now, ladies, as we continue our conversation about our children here in Douglas County, what is it that you would like for those who are watching us to know about our children here in the county and their needs relating to foster care?
I want folks to know that we don't do this, by ourselves, that a government agency is not a good parent, and we rely on the partnerships with the courts, with CASA, with our foster parents, with mentors, with our service providers, to help to meet the needs of these children and families. And so it's really important for, there's room at the table for folks to feel welcome and to know that there are opportunities to serve in different capacities.
Judge Nurse. Yes, ma'am. What is it that you would like? I know you see all types of cases. So what is it that, I as a citizen, what is it that you would like to share with those watching this afternoon about our children and the need for those of us in our beloved community to be involved?
Well, we certainly could benefit from having more foster homes in Douglas County. We are thankful for the ones that we have, but we are always willing to have more. But I think the process works a lot better when foster parents understand that they are part of the partnership as well, and that they really rally around and support not only that child, but the biological parents as well. Some of the success stories that have come out of our court, even when the children are returned and they go back to mom and dad still have that rapport with the foster parents. And sometimes the children may even refer to the foster parents as their grandparents. And so they continue to be a family unit. And so the more love and support that child has, the better. And so it's a lot easier when we don't have, a tug of war between foster and biological mom, but when they are meshing together and working.
And Bernita, I'd like to add to that, because when we were talking about the different type of caregivers that you can be, there primarily is 3 different type of caregivers that a person who wants to help become a foster parent can choose to be. And one of them is called a partnership parent, and that's exactly what it is, what it sounds like, is that they are coming in to partner with the department, with the family, with the providers in the courts in securing and helping that child grow, right? Meeting that child's needs and nurturing that child. Their purpose is strictly just to foster that child. We also have resource parents. They can choose to elect to be a resource parent, in which they are open to adoption, but their primary focus is fostering children. But in the event that those children could not be returned home, and we do have to look at an alternative that child may have to be, the rights of the parents need to be terminated and the child be adopted, they are open for adoption. And then, of course, the last category is adoption parents. We do have parents who just reach out to us who want to be adoptive parents, and that's what they're interested in. So, I agree with Judge Nurse that, partnership parents works best when they truly are being that partner with the family.
Absolutely. So, Katie, what is it that you would like our community to know about CASA? I think you're one of our kind of hidden treasures. Everyone doesn't know that you're there.
Yes, and I appreciate you having us here so much, because there's so much I want the community to know about child welfare, about becoming a court-appointed special advocate. Is that, it's hard to, peel back those layers and really look into a system like child welfare. But knowing that, we are human beings in this work, right? And that we want the community to come and get involved. And we want the community to be a part of the solution, right, with these children and with these families, because it is a system, and it is a heartbreaking one at times, but that there are people involved at all levels in all departments who want the best for these children. And if you have it in your heart to be a foster parent, please be a foster parent. I want you to be a foster parent. But if you can't foster, you can become a CASA volunteer. If you can't become a CASA, you can be a mentor. There's so many ways to support, so many. You can support our Foster Parent Association. They have meetings, well, pre-COVID, they had in-person meetings, and maybe you have a restaurant and you want to donate dinner for their meeting. So there's just so many things that you can do to be supportive and help these children and families heal.
I did want to share one other role that the foster parent can play, and that's the respite foster parent.
Yes.
And those are folks who just give our long-term foster parents a break. Or maybe a child comes in and we need emergency placement. And so those are folks who can open their homes for a short period of time without having a long-term commitment. They would need to go through the same process, but up to 14 days maybe at a time, you would have a child in your home.
It's my spring break! And I'm gonna show you all of those things that I'm doing for my spring break and some things that you can do on your spring break too.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Why am I not married? It's like, if you're not married, something is wrong with you. I'm comfortable with who I am. Would I like to get married one day? Of course. But if I don't, I'll be okay.
Just continue to live your life, find your purpose, work on yourself. And I believe when it's the right time, you'll cross paths with who you want to be with, find your path, live it, and just trust God to do the rest.
In preparing for the respite care, is that the same training? Is that, because I can only imagine about the time you get attached to that little one, they're leaving you again. So what is the self-care plan for our foster parents? Because I know somebody needs to kind of look after them.
Well, I think it goes back to when we receive an inquiry from a person who wants to be a foster parent, that they attend that pre-service training that Millicent was referencing, and they have those conversations about what foster care really looks like and what child welfare really means. And they can make that determination for themselves what they're comfortable with. Are they comfortable with only having a child in their home for a very short period of time, and maybe that attachment may not happen, right, in a few short weeks, but maybe they'll have a heart to really foster these children, and they do become attached to these children. And sometimes our partnership parents who had no plan of adopting a child falls in love with that child and becomes committed to that child. And in the event that that child is not able to return home, they step up to the plate and say, hey, I want to adopt this child. So, it's not set in stone when you inquire to be a foster parent and state your preference that's where you're stuck. It's not like we're putting a person in a box. It's just that's what their preference is in the beginning, and then as they work with us and we work with them, they can make that decision on their own to go a different route.
So what happens, we know that personality plays a big role in this. So what happens when the personalities just don't match? It's just not a good fit. I'm a great foster parent, but for little Susie or Johnny, we're just not meshing. What happens then?
Well, I thought Melissa was going to go,
On
but she can
occasion-
jump
I
in.
was like- on occasion, there are disruptions, and mostly it's not so much a matter of personalities as it is caregiver capacity doesn't necessarily meet the level of need that the child has.
Okay.
And so we have to recognize when we don't have good fits and when we can't mitigate that with services or supports, and then we have to maybe move on. We don't like for children to move from placement to placement. So whenever possible, we do what we can to try and salvage placements. But if it's not a good fit, it can get to a place where, maybe it's not a healthy situation for the parent or the child.
All right.
And as Melissa said, when we do have a notice from a foster parent that says, look, I just cannot keep this child in our home, we're gone are the days where we would just hop in our car and go pick up the child and bring back. Now it's all about what can we do to salvage that stability placement? What services can we put in place and offer to the foster parent? What does the child need in the home that maybe we're not providing yet? And we partner with, we have these staffings, they're quite immediate, and we partner with Katie and her team. They join us on that call because we do want their input. We have the foster parents on the call because we want to hear exactly from them, where is the barrier, what are they struggling with? So we know as a group of how we can come together. And sometimes we have the kids when it's an older youth, and Millicent will, have that conversation right in the meeting with that teenager, talking about what do they need. And so we do our very best to try and stabilize the placement. But again, sometimes best efforts fail, and it's just not a safe placement for the child to remain. And so we do have to, find a different placement that could meet that child's needs.
And if I can jump in, with some of our older youth, if I see in a report that this child has been moved a few times, and it may be due to behaviors, sometimes it's beneficial for me to say to that child's attorney, hey, maybe Johnny may need to have an in chambers with me to tell me how he's feeling or how she's feeling. We can have all the attorneys present, but give that young person an opportunity to be heard, because sometimes they feel like their voices are not heard and that they are lost in the shuffle, and that there are all these adults who are making decisions over their heads that affect them and they don't get a say so in it. And so sometimes we may just need to have a conversation. Okay, what's going on? And a lot of times it's, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm ready to go home, I'm over this. Why are people continually moving me? And so that allows me to kind of hone in on what the issues are, and if we can address it, if I can have that conversation with that young person and maybe they felt like they've been heard and that their needs are going to be met, then that might help also kind of stabilize the situation. But I wholeheartedly agree. Like we don't like to see, repetitive changes of placement.
And I would just like to add to that is that I think, kudos to Judge Nurse and Judge Harrison and our previous judge, Judge Walker. Just they're so trauma focused and so trauma informed and are so willing to step off that bench, to take off the robe, to have a conversation with a youth that might be struggling, right? And we know that when they don't have the words, it comes out of behavior, right? If they can't articulate, I'm mad at my mom, or I'm mad at my dad, or I'm mad at the situation, it comes out in behavior. And they know that, and they're so focused on what is right for the child, that they're willing to just have that one-on-one with them. And I think that really helps. It really helps, especially a young person when they feel like they have no control in their life.
So how does other systems play into the care of children that are in foster care? For example, our school system or our medical system here. Little Susie was in school on the west side of the county, and now maybe the foster parent is on the east side. So that may precipitate a school change. How does the school interact to try to resolve, the least amount of trauma for that child?
We actually have a liaison. Jill Smith serves as the foster care and homeless youth liaison for the county. And she actually partners with our case managers to ensure that young people, they're able to remain in their school, to help to have some sense of normalcy so that they can, if they stay in the county, and help us to arrange for transportation and that kind of thing. So we do have a partner and a liaison who works directly with the county to facilitate that.
And we also have the school climate meetings and the foster care youth meetings, and that is quarterly.
Yeah.
That we meet over at the school board annex building, and I attend, Judge Harrison attends, Dee Dee, Millicent, Katie is in those meetings. We have some of our juvenile public defender attorneys there. We have lots of folks from the school system, and it pre-COVID literally was a big round table where we looked at the numbers and we identified various youth that were in foster care, and maybe there have been school changes, et cetera. So that is our way of keeping the pulse on what's going on with our foster care youth as far as what's going on with them in the school system. And also our Chief Superior Court Judge, Judge Emerson, usually is involved in that meeting as well and heads that up.
So we talked about our children being heard, but does the birth parent have a voice in all of this? We know that is where the original issue began, but now my child is in foster care. How do I reach out? How do I still continue in some way of parenting, or at least being aware of what's happening with, my son or daughter?
Well, we have monthly contact with our parents, and primarily we're talking about the case plan and the services that is being provided to them and how they're progressing. But we also are obligated to formulate visits with the birth parents and their children while they're in foster care. And of course, pre-COVID, it was all face-to-face visits, and then that was kind of put on the back burner, and there was a lot of more so virtual visits. But we're getting back to the face-to-face visits. We've been integrating those visits face-to-face over the last couple months now, since it's been a lot more safer for everyone, and that the foster parents feel safe for the kids to go visit their parents face-to-face. We want to look at everybody's perspective on that. But so we do offer that, but in partnership parenting, and what foster parents are taught when they go through their training to become a foster parent, is one aspect is how do they include the birth parents in raising the children. And it might just be that they allow the birth parent to call the child at night to say goodnight, or maybe do a Zoom call and help them with their homework, invite them to school musicals or athletic events that the child might be involved with, so that it's the foster parents and the birth parents. And as long as the department holds temporary custody of a child, we ask parents' opinions whether the child can travel out of state with their foster parents, or if the foster parent feels the child needs a haircut. It's not their say, it's not their decision. We want to involve mom and dad and say, hey, is it okay if we have the child's haircut or trimmed or something else? So we try to involve the parents when we can, as much as possible. And, as long as it's not an emergency situation or would jeopardize the safety of the children. But we try to incorporate the parents, because once we know that when those children return back home, the parents are back full-time parents, right? They're having to deal with the school and the extracurricular activities of that child, the therapies and the counselings and everything that pertains to that child. So we try not to abscond them during the time the child is in foster care, but include them.
And I would say, as a court system, once we have entered a removal order, we know that that 72-hour hearing is going to come up immediately. And so we do early appointment of attorneys for mom, dad, and child. So day one, when parent steps foot into courtroom, whether it's in person or on Zoom, they've got court-appointed counsel. That person can walk them through the process and help them understand what their rights are, and advocate for them. And at the PPH hearing, we are always asking, okay, what's visitation going to look like? Is it safe and appropriate? Should we have supervised visitation or unsupervised visitation for the parents? What's the schedule? And subsequent to that, typically our orders will reflect, okay, mom and dad are entitled to go to school activities. They need to be included in pediatric appointments, dental appointments. And if we have infants or, children that are nursing, we definitely want mom having consistent time with that child to bond, to keep that level of attachment up. And so to encourage that. So we try to keep the parents incorporated and engaged to the extent possible, but then also to allow them the opportunity to address their issues.
And just to add to that as well, a part of the Judge Nurses Court, as well as Judge Harrison, we offer a family treatment court as well, which is a non-punitive court to parents who may have substance use issues. They need that extra support. They need a caseworker to help them get into treatment or appropriate therapies. And that is something that I think has been really successful, that the parents can have that additional help while they're sorting out what they need to sort out. So, and that's something that I think is not totally unique to Georgia, but we've been doing it for quite a while. Quite a while. And we've successful parents who are able to overcome their youth and are able to safely parent again.
Calendars are going to start coming out for 2022. And some of us are still processing 2020. And I'll start with just being honest, Teresa. I am not ready.
We're switching and we're moving and we're turning. Like I said, we have a new norm that we're having to create. And that, I think, is the issue, trying to get your footing into this new norm.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Grab your popcorn, grab your coat, and come on, hang out with us.
I just wanted people to sense God's very presence in their homes, on their jobs, and basically teaching them, let's go back, let's draw nigh unto God in this pandemic and allow Him to draw nigh unto us.
So one of the things, it takes a person that is trained and skilled and talented, but it is also a matter of the heart. So ladies, share with me what brought you into this field of child welfare.
Well, for me, I think it chose me, to be honest with you. I went to college to be an accountant. That didn't. I can't add numbers, so that changed after one semester. But so I went into the social work field, and it intrigued me to learn about behaviors and human development and families and children and just social aspects, right? And so I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I went into gerontology actually and was a social worker at a nursing home for a few years, and a position opened up. And once I got hired, within 6 months, I was like, I'm never leaving. I loved this job. So it was never really my intent, although I grew up in a dysfunctional home. I grew up with an alcoholic father, and my mother was a very strong woman who made sure that all of us kids were taken care of and that our needs were met, and that, you know, we never went without, and we were encouraged to all go to college, and, you know, just we had a wonderful mother who supported us through that dark time of my father being an alcoholic. And you know, he recovered when I was a senior in high school. For 17 years, that's all I knew of my dad. And when I turned 17, he just stopped drinking and never drank again. And so sometimes I bring that aspect to my job, knowing that you can succeed even growing in a dysfunctional environment. But you have to have support systems. You have to have friends, and you have to have teachers that take you under their wing, and maybe another parent who can support you. And, you know, and I realized with my father, he didn't mean to do it to harm us children. You know, it was a disease for him. And so when we're working with families, we kind of have that empathy for our families and not judgmental.
Mine actually started within the church. My father was a pastor. My mom was a school teacher. And I taught a group of kids from the community, little Bible study classes. I was actually going to school for journalism. However, I found that I received more joy from the work that I was doing, you know, with the children than anything else. And I actually ended up switching majors, and it was not supported by my family. They said, "Millie, girl, you don't have to get a degree to do good. You just have to volunteer." But it has been the most rewarding field, as challenging as the work can be. I would not have my daughter and son-in-law and grandchildren, and so this field has given back so much. So as much as you put into it, you receive back, and 2, 3, 4, 10-fold.
So right out of law school, I went to work for large firms, and, you know, the coveted positions, the pay was great, but I had absolutely no free time, no personal life. And one day I just said, okay, this is not for me. So I went and I hung out my own shingles, started my own practice, and actually took on a case involving the department. Was a maternal aunt. Her 3 nieces had been in foster care, and she was doing everything in her power to try to figure out the process and how to get involved to even be considered for placement. And so I took the case on, and those girls were placed with her. And to this day, that's been years ago, to this day, I still get pictures, I still get updates. You know, we communicate with each other, and the girls are doing well, but it was that type of reward that just kind of touched my heart, and that's what makes the not so good days worth it. When I came here to Douglas County, I was a juvenile public defender, then I just started taking contract work, had the opportunity to kind of watch Judge Peggy Walker, who was our juvenile court judge for years, and those of you who know her know yes. She's absolutely phenomenal. Yes. But she was not only a great judge, but was a great teacher. And so if you listen to her and you follow her, you know, it all started to gel for me. And so when she retired in 2019, Judge Harrison was appointed chief judge, and Judge Harrison appointed me. In 2019, I did seek certification as a child welfare law specialist through National Association of Counsel for Children, which is a very difficult exam, but I did receive certification. And so I just love what I do. I wouldn't change anything for the world. And I tell all of the kids that come in front of me, whether it's dependency or delinquents, I treat you just like my kids and how I would want other people to treat my children. And so it's just something that I'm really passionate about and something that I love to do.
Well, so how I came in, I graduated from college and at the wonderful time of 2008, at the height of the economic downturn. So I studied sociology in school. Communities and families and those dynamics had always really fascinated me, and I wanted to be a part of systems that helped children and families. And so I couldn't find a job, right? I think all of us could probably understand that at that time was difficult. And so I was still working a college job, and a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, my dad is doing this thing, it's called CASA, and I think you would really like it. And so she told me about it, and I went online and I looked it up, and I thought, oh yeah, that is something I could do, and I can do it right now, right? You don't have to have a degree to volunteer or to do good in the community, right? So I signed up, and in 2009 I was sworn in Newton County, and I loved it. I just loved the work. I loved the work from day one. I served many families, and I could rattle their names off to you right now, but I won't. And I just had a heart for it. And when the opportunity came along to become an advocacy coordinator in Rockdale County, I jumped at the chance. And I said, yes, please hire me. I want to do this. I've been volunteering for a while. I want to do this full time. And so luckily they hired me. I was able to support volunteers in Rockdale County for several years. And then in 2012, I came on as the director here in Douglas County. And it's just been this amazing ride, right? So I've kind of been at every level of our organization. I've been thankful to having served as a board member of our parent organization, Georgia CASA. And it's just been a really fantastic opportunity to serve in the Honorable Judge Peggy Walker's court for so many years. And as Judge Nurse said, that was quite the learning opportunity. And I've just taken so much away from these wonderful women in this work. And to be able to continue to serve Judge Harrison and Judge Nurse is just, my dream job. It really is. It is my dream job.
Amazing. So, yeah. Amazing. Well, I want to say thank you to all of my new friends who have joined us this afternoon. And at the end of the show, there will be a list of how you can reach out to these ladies, how you can get involved. It is important that we become a problem-solving part, a solution to our beloved community, to these children that we hold most dearly in our hearts. It takes a village. And so this evening, I want to say thank you all for coming and spending a little time with me and having this amazing conversation. Again, thank you for joining us from the heart. Remember, all the life matters comes from the heart. I am your host, Bernita Jackson, and thank you so much for joining us.